This episode of the Miss Spots podcast is brought to you by Amazon Prime, the amazing service from Amazon that allows you to get free 2-day shipping on nearly every item available on their website, plus access to Amazon Prime Music and Prime Video service with tons of movies and TV shows, including the acclaimed original series Transparent starring Jeffrey Tambor. Now you can get a free 3-month trial of Amazon Prime by going to missspots.com/prime. Plus, if you do that, Amazon's going to throw in a free 3-month trial of HBO on your Prime Video. Nothing else you have to say or do. You get that for free with this trial as well. That way you can catch up on Game of Thrones, Westworld, or you can watch anything from HBO's amazing back catalog, like The Sopranos, The Wire. It's all there for you. After your trial, you can pay just $99 for the entire year of Prime. Trust me, that sounds like a lot, but as a Prime member myself, that money more than pays for itself in just 2-day shippings after just a couple of months. So head over to missspots.com/prime right now and try Amazon Prime for free for 3 months and join what practically everyone should be a part of. Amazon Prime.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Welcome back to the Miss Spots podcast on missspots.com, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, and Geek Life Radio. My name is Mike, and with me, as always, is the Mojo Rally to my Gronk. Here's Kevin.
And after 5 days of nonstop wrestling, we're staying hype. You feel me, Michael?
Not really.
Oh. Now I'm just sad.
So let me preface this show by, yes, we spent 4
Friday,
straight days.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then Tuesday back here.
Yeah. We were in Orlando for the Hall of Fame through Raw. I'm coming down with a cold. Kevin his voice is barely there.
Pretty much shot, yeah.
So, we'll hopefully get through this quickly. We'll see how well we can do that. So, big weekend. Let's talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame ceremony. We're not going to harp on this too much because pretty much there wasn't anything that you didn't see that wasn't on the network. It was very long.
It was a very long show. My real impressions are this. Really nice to be there and see DDP get up and talk about his career and kind of get a little retrospective of that. A guy who really deserves everything he's gotten. I thought Beth Phoenix did an amazing job framing her career and really giving a lot of respect to all the people that helped her out. Her family, Edge, all these people. I thought that was lovely. This is one of those shows that's going to get a little self-indulgent. At times. It gets real long at times. This is a thing where if you and I travel to a WrestleMania or I go by myself one day, I might skip the Hall of Fame. It might not be something, it's not something that I'm going to go, I got to go back to that again. And with no disrespect for those people being inducted and the good things that came out of it and the things that were enjoyable about the show, but it wasn't a must see thing for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would. I'm glad that I went, the first time that I've gone to the Hall of Fame, and glad I can check that off my list now. It didn't make the list. I take it off the list. Yeah, in the future, it would probably depend on who's in the class, and if there was someone, really great that I would want to see, be inducted, like maybe a Davey Boy Smith, or something like that, that would cause me to want to go then. But yeah, you hit great point. Hearing DDP talk was great. Beth Phoenix, I think, was probably the best speech of
Sure,
the
absolutely.
night. Rick Rude's son, it was nice to listen to. A little cringeworthy hearing JBL talk about like, the kind of like not making fun of people and kind of
accepting people for who they
Yeah.
are. When he has, at least in the past, been kind of known, whether fairly or unfairly, we don't know. We haven't been back there as a bully and as a guy who definitely cuts people down and beats people up physically, verbally, about being a little bit different. So yeah, that was a little bit. His message was good. I agree with the
yeah.
message. It's just one of those things where maybe Ron Simmons should have said that as opposed to JBL.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the night went on, people started to get drunk and people started to start chanting other things and interacting in a way that probably didn't befit a Hall of Fame ceremony. And people really enjoyed the Kurt Angle stuff. I honestly thought that Kurt Angle's speech was really self-indulgent. Mm-hmm. And other than his message to the superstars of today and the future as make fun of yourself, go with it, which was a beautiful sentiment, I think a lot of it was very much it wasn't a very humble speech. It was very much about how great he is.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
I'm with you on that. But that was pretty much our take on the Hall of Fame ceremony. It was cool to put on suits and hang out there for 4 hours, and then go have some drinks in suits afterwards. But, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of 4 shows in a row. We attended 3 of them, and starting with NXT TakeOver Orlando in the Amway Center of Orlando, Florida. We had 5 matches. There was a couple pre-show matches on there that the viewers at home didn't get to see. Nothing super of note except for the fact that we had El Vagabondo, which was the Drifter, Elias Sampson, underneath a luchador mask, was still with his scarf, his whole getup, and his guitar, taking on Oni Lorcan. And
well, we're going to guess that's going to be shown at for NXT taping, because they almost
possibly,
do,
yeah.
So we'll probably see this sometime in the near future. This was great. They found a way to get Elias Sampson over. And this is a guy who everyone wanted to get rid of, and not just that great heel heat, but kind of go away heat. And this is just a funny little thing with him losing the match to Cassius Ohno and having to leave NXT and coming back as El Vagabondo. It was a cute moment. It was perfect for the kind of crowd that goes to that kind of show, which is very inside, who really appreciated it and really got a great laugh out of it. And they had a good match.
Yeah. But starting off the main show, we got the 8-man tag team match that was originally scheduled as all 4 members of Sanity taking on Ty Dillinger, Roderick Strong, No Way Jose, and Ruby Riott. Mm-hmm. But during a Access event, they always have matches during Access. No Way Jose was attacked by Sanity, forcing him out of the match, and Cassius Ohno takes the place of Jose on the Good Guys team. This was pretty standard 8-man tag stuff. Everyone got their shit in, as Stone Cold would say. And we end up with Sanity getting the win once again. It was on Ty too, again, wasn't it?
Honestly, I can't remember. I believe it was on Ty. This was the right thing to do. We knew that there would be some call-ups coming up, and Ty Dillinger was one of the ones expected. And Sanity is still going to be down there. Roderick Strong and Cassius Ohno are not going to be teaming together, most likely. And Sanity needs a win, and they need to continue to grow and become a more dominant and interesting group. So this is kind of what we predicted, I believe. I can't remember exactly. So. But this was not a great match by any means, but it was fun for what it was.
And then we were followed up with Andrade Cien Almas taking on the debuting Aleister Black. This was a good showing, and I think it was kind of along the lines of what I said. I thought that Cien would get in some offense, and he certainly did. He did some of his shtick, his showboating heel persona. Aleister Black with a lot of stiff kicks and strikes, and wins with a big kick. We got a little distracted at one point because of some shitheads in the crowd, being shitheads, which became a theme of the weekend.
Which we knew was going to happen. I was actually surprised that Almas dominated most of this match for a debuting guy. It was not a 50-50 affair. It was really Almas taking control for the most part. Black had a couple interesting spots, that backflip off the ropes into that kind of seated butterfly position kind of thing. Meditative position was interesting. And I kind of missed the finish too, as we were yelling at a different section. Aleister Black had a cool entrance. It's got a great look. I'm really excited to see where he goes.
Yeah, I am too. And then we had what was possibly I would say definitely the match of the night, possibly the match of the weekend. And it was the triple threat elimination tag team match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Authors of Pain defending against DIY and the Revival. What a story that this told. We had DIY and Revival pretty much teaming up in order to try to take out the Authors of Pain, except for like one little tease from the Revival of turning on DIY. They pretty much worked together the entire time whenever it came about, and no one really screwed the other over.
Well, one time, obviously they did break down and start fighting, but every time that the Authors of Pain came back, they had to team up together. The only gripe I have about this match, and I agree with you, great match, maybe the match of the weekend, was once the finish kind of snuck up on you. And I didn't really feel it built to that finish. They got that double power bomb in, and that was it. I would have liked to see maybe another minute or so, of kind of a, building to that crescendo. But I thought up until that point, I thought they hit everything. The notes were hit perfectly. Revival was cheered in this match. They were definitely over as baby faces in this. And the fact that you did, because of that, get the team up, a reluctant team up with DIY, and we see the Shatter Machine with Ciampa and Dash was awesome, and just a fun moment. They mixed in the fun moments that are going to be there, kind of crowd baiting and good for them, with great wrestling action and great storytelling. And it's rare you get to do all those things at the same time.
Yeah.
And that was what was so great about this match. And Authors of Pain look better for having come out of that. They continue to help to elevate the Authors of Pain. And as they're getting better as in-ring workers, eventually it's all going to come together for them. And I hope they'll be what the Ascension couldn't be, which is a dominant heel tag team that can do real damage on the main roster one day.
Oh, yeah. I think they're already well on their way to that, but weirder shit has happened. Asuka and Ember Moon tangle for the women's title. Asuka pretty much turned heel in this match.
I felt like it at least, yeah.
As Ember Moon went to the top rope for, Total Eclipse? Is that what?
The Eclipse.
The Eclipse. Her finishing move. Asuka pushes the referee into the ropes, causing Moon to fall with the roundhouse kick, gets the pin. A little weird that didn't result in a DQ when the ref knew that Asuka pushed him and admonished her for it. But this solidifies Asuka as a heel and makes Ember Moon pretty much your number one babyface in the women's division.
I still think it's tough because people are going to cheer Asuka because she's a badass and she's easy to cheer. You want to watch her run through people. So I think they're going to have to do some more work in the upcoming weeks to make this a real heel turn. I thought it was the best choice because when she's finally toppling a heel is going to be bigger than toppling a babyface. And Ember Moon has a good moveset. This is the best match Ember Moon's worked. I thought in general this match was really well done.
Yeah.
And it was violent, it was aggressive, there was a great storytelling aspect to it. Asuka played with her, kicked her in the head, did a lot of that classic heel stuff throughout this match. So, yeah, I was really, really happy with this, and I was happy at the reception that Ember Moon got throughout this match because this easily could have been silence for Ember Moon and massive cheers for Asuka. And we did get Ember Moon a little farther along in her progression with this match.
She won some of the crowd over in that
for
match.
sure.
Main event, Nakamura gets his rematch against Bobby Roode for the NXT title and comes up short. We had a good match. Bobby Roode hits a tornado glorious DDT after Nakamura kicked out of the regular glorious DDT. And we assumed that at this time that this is Nakamura's last match in NXT. He's going to be going up to the main roster like the rumors have been saying for a while. And it certainly felt that way with giving him a good curtain call after the match was over, after I assume the TVs went off too.
Yeah, he did all the typical stuff, posing, everyone singing along to his song, chanting Nakamura. Bobby Roode is the right guy right now. We said this for weeks. He's a credible heel champion, willing to take a powder when it's necessary, but also able to back up his talk. And when you beat that guy, that's impressive and that's special. When you beat the guy who's a chicken shit heel that always runs away, there's a joy in getting those comeuppance, but it's not nearly as great as when you beat a guy who's a credible threat. The crowd was 50-50 throughout this entire match. I think that's probably the only thing that really hurt the match, in my opinion, because it's hard when you have a 50-50 match when one of the guys is obviously playing heel and trying to get boos, and you're still cheering him. And I don't know what it was like on TV, but for us, we were sitting there going, oh man, I mean, this almost feels like a Bobby Roode crowd completely. Mm-hmm. Up until the very end when Nakamura was taking his curtain call.
Yeah, there was one point where I'm fairly certain I remember this, that there was a both these guys chant.
Right.
And that was maybe a way of people being like, okay, yeah, but we like both of them. But
that works with Sami Zayn and Nakamura in essentially an exhibition match. Mm-hmm. When Sami's going to the main roster, Nakamura is being introduced, and they're both baby faces, and it's not for a championship. It doesn't work when one guy is a dastardly heel, the other guy's a beloved baby face, and he's trying to conquer the heel. Listen, you're fans, you can cheer who you want, but at the same time, sometimes realize that Bobby Roode wants to be booed, you give him that respect and boo him because he's a heel.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that does it for TakeOver. Let's jump right into the ultimate thrill ride.
I just took a drink.
WrestleMania 33. This was okay. We spent a lot of time at the hallowed grounds of Camping World Stadium. We got there around 2:30 in the afternoon. We didn't get back to our hotel until maybe 2:15 in the morning. The pre-show started with Neville defending the Cruiserweight title against Austin Aries. Neville retains, after some dastardly moves. He went to the eyes of Aries, which, we can recall he had a broken orbital bone at one point. So good storytelling there, yeah. I think, and a good match.
Excellent match to open the show. Having the Cruiserweights relegated to the pre-show, someone's got to be there. They were the perfect match to open the show. The crowd was hot. They were booing Neville. They were behind Aries. That helped with the storytelling. They broke out some really exciting moves, high risk offense, and Neville does everything about this match kind of hit beat by beat. Exactly what you want to accomplish in this. Neville beat a credible guy who the fans adored and retained his title to continue his reign across the Cruiserweight division.
And they gave him time too.
Yep.
This was the 5th longest match. Only 4 matches were longer than it. It was longer than the women's match, the tag team title match, a lot of things, but good for them to give them some time to put together a good match and a good story.
We thought this might be the best match of the night coming in, and as far as in-ring action, it served that purpose. It might have been.
Mm-hmm. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal was won by Mojo Rawley, which surprised a lot of people.
Sure.
Big Show was dumped unceremoniously. Braun was taken out rather quickly. Sammy, he stuck around a little longer, but then he went, and then we were like, okay, those were like the three main ones here. And some interference from Rob Gronkowski, and Mojo wins.
The other surprise, Killian Dane was entered into the match and ended up being there damn near
third place,
to the end. Very surprising. Obviously, this is just reaching out to the mainstream exposure. They wanted to be on ESPN. Gronkowski gets him on ESPN. Maybe this is a start for something with Mojo, but you feel like, why have Big Show, Braun Strowman, and Sami Zayn? Those are guys who credibly win this, and then they can do something else. They've built Braun Strowman up to the point where the only thing he could do was win this Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and he was not even close to near the end. So, but that was kind of a shame for a guy like Strowman. He'll get his mojo back, hopefully pretty soon.
Pun intended.
Yeah, as long as they can get him back into an interesting storyline where he can be a beast again. I mean, this was the entire other part of the roster was in this match, and this is a really nice idea, but they've never really functioned this battle royal as anything special at all. And if they're just going to use this to get eyes on the product and ESPN, it'll continue to be a joke, and no one will care.
Mm-hmm. Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin built the house up, the complete opposite of tear the house down. And I hate saying that because both of these guys are very talented, but they just, I guess, we're not hitting it on all cylinders here. The crowd just wasn't seemingly into it until towards the very end.
And even then, probably one of the quietest, the crowd was quietest probably for this match more than almost any other match of the night. I thought that the crowd in general was sat on their hands the entire time. They popped for the finish because there was some really cool reversals in there. Mm-hmm. And Dean's reversal of the End of Days into the Dirty Deeds was really cool. But yeah, this match never really got going. We just saw on SmackDown them do a really, really good match with a street fight. That could have been this match.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was saying going into this match when we were previewing it, is if they could make this into the street fight that Brock and Dean was supposed to be, it would probably be entertaining. And we saw that on SmackDown, and we'll talk about that in a little while, but yeah. They
missed the boat on that, and Dean retaining was a shock. We both picked Baron, thinking that you have this be his coronation, and really a big moment for a guy like a young guy like Baron in the company getting the IC belt. It would be a great moment for him, and really signal a shift. To keep it on Dean, kind of surprising.
Yeah, we'll see where this is obviously continuing, and we'll talk about that some more later. The main show starts with AJ against Shane. Getting this one out there quick. And with this placement of it, it kind of admits we're not going to have a gigantic spot like everyone thinks. Shane's not going to jump off of something in the very first match of the card. And what we got was a rather competitive match. And you can say, oh, that was great. There was good back and forth. Shane looked good in it. Shane busted out a shooting star press and landed on his face. But as you were saying when we were talking about it for the next couple days, go ahead and say what you were talking about with your issue with having it be a competitive match.
Well, listen, I will gladly and respectfully eat a little bit of crow here. This was a really good match. It was an exciting match. The crowd was involved. Shane looked better than I thought he would. From the beginning of the match to the end of the match, they built a excellent competitive match that far surpassed anything that Shane did with Undertaker the year previously, and far surpassed any of my expectations. I will still stand on ceremony and say it was still a terrible thing to do to take AJ Styles, arguably the best wrestler in the company and the MVP over the last year, and put him in a competitive match with a 48-year-old, 49, whatever his age is, non-wrestler. It is an embarrassment to put him in there, and it's an embarrassment that he didn't destroy him. At this point, if Shane McMahon can stand toe-to-toe with you and come within a hair's breadth of beating you, kick out of a Styles Clash, why can't R-Truth beat you? Because R-Truth is actually a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand the difference. And you can say, well, this is wrestling, and that's not the way things go, and the McMahons have won matches before, and that's. I'm sorry, I don't agree. AJ Styles should never been in this match with Shane McMahon. He should have gotten a proxy, and it would have been a better story. They put on a fun, interesting match. I will give you that, but I reject that idea. Shane McMahon is not a wrestler. AJ Styles is a world-class competitor, and he should not have been booked to be the equal of a non-wrestling authority figure. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, I absolutely see your point there. Chris Jericho defended the U.S. title against Kevin Owens. This went pretty much how we thought it would. Good back and forth, but Kevin Owens ultimately wins. Uses the powerbomb on the apron as the finisher instead of just the regular pop-up powerbomb. That adds a little bit to it. And gold is back around the waist of KO.
Something we didn't touch on, I don't think, over the last couple of weeks is I wish that the U.S. title would have been a little more of a focus of this feud. I understand it was deeply personal, and that's great. But in the last couple of weeks, they should have at least shoehorned in the U.S. title, said something about KO needing gold, the whole thing about him needing to feed his family and being a champion.
He did say, you caused me to lose my Universal title. Now I'm going to take your U.S. title.
Right. He said that once, and then the entire build and every video package was all about the Festival of Friendship and their friendship. That's fine. What I'm saying is that U.S. title means more when that's a larger focus of his animosity and a larger focus of what he's trying to get done. Me personally, just saying that one time doesn't really get that point across as well. Other than that, good match. I enjoyed it. I also thought that this match, the crowd was a little more quiet than I thought they would be. I thought there would be a lot more heat on this match than what we at least experienced in our section, maybe, or whatever it was in the stadium itself. It's a big stadium. Sometimes the sound doesn't carry. Maybe other sections were a little bit hotter for it. It did not feel like the blow off of this. It felt like they still have some unfinished business just in general. Yeah,
it did. And I think we saw a little bit of that on Raw. And that's the thing with WrestleMania. WrestleMania is not always the blow off for every feud that's going into it. It can be a continuation. And we have a few that I believe are still going on like that. After this was the Raw Women's Championship match, the Fatal 4-Way Elimination match. And I just did not think that this was a very good match. It was very rushed. And at one point I leaned into you and I go, does this seem really quick to you? And you definitely agreed with me. They only went 12 minutes for a fatal 4-way match that needed eliminations in it. They rather quickly dispensed of Nia Jax with all three of the remaining ones powerbombing her and everyone pinning her to get her out. Cool little spot there.
I thought that was paced perfectly. They went after her first. They teamed up. Everything that was all pitch perfect to me. And then once they got to the three left over, that's when it seemed like they just rushed through everything else.
Yeah, and every single fall in that match, I realized the next day didn't involve anyone's finisher because we had apparently Charlotte didn't pull off the turnbuckle pad well enough earlier in the match and sent Sasha into it, and it just looked like she hit the turnbuckle pad, but it was meant to be an exposed turnbuckle and got rolled up off of that. And then that turnbuckle came into play again with then Bayley hitting a flying elbow drop off the top rope on Charlotte to get the win. I mean, I'm happy for Bayley that she gets to have her moment at WrestleMania holding up the title at the end of a match, and no one can take that away from her, and congrats on that. But The whole feud with her and Charlotte the whole feud was entirely paced wrong, as was this match.
Yeah, you don't have the conclusion of your story happen halfway through your novel. It happens at the conclusion of the novel, and that's the mistake they made on this, beat by beat all the way through it. Yeah, the pacing. Once Nia was eliminated, it was short order when Sasha was eliminated, kind of unceremoniously. And then, listen, the problem with that turnbuckle pad not coming off and kind of being confusing for people. We also had the problem where Bayley was supposed to pull herself up so Charlotte would hit that turnbuckle, and she didn't. She just hit Bayley's back. This happens. You're not going to get on top of these people for quote unquote botching a move in that magnitude. There's nothing wrong with that. It happens to the best wrestlers in the world. The problem wasn't that, it was the pacing. The problem was that everything felt rushed, and the problem was that we've already seen Bayley be coronated and be the champion. So her beating Charlotte again for the third time, it's not as big of a story. It's not as feel good. Kudos to them for going out there and performing. Kudos to the fans for making this a big deal, for treating each one of these competitors as amazing performers and superstars. But it could have been so much more, and that's where my disappointment comes in.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you on that. And then the ladder match for the Raw Tag Team titles came up next, which was billed as a triple threat. Enzo and Cass against Sheamus and Cesaro against the champions of Anderson and Gallows. Before the match can get started, the New Day comes out in their gear and say, this is going to be a fatal four-way, and there's another team. Whoo. And just as like Kofi starts taking off his little swashbuckler hat, you think that it's going to be New Day entering it. Cue the Hardys theme, and Matt and Jeff Hardy are out to jump into the fray, so to speak.
If this was the moment, I think, of the weekend for me, as far as the most exciting, the most exhilarating, the biggest swerve, surprise. And this was one of the great things about this show, was that we did not think we would see them. There's all the rumors swirling around. They did a great job of hiding the fact that they came to the arena late. They were seen in their hotel room, while after the show had already started. They did everything pitch perfect to make us think that. In fact, we were talking to another fan in the parking lot who said, "Oh, you think the Hardys are going to be there?" And you and I kind of did like one of the, of course they're not going to be there, you know. And the fact that we were so wrong and we were surprised was an awesome moment.
Oh,
the
yeah.
crowd, I mean, the delete chants were some of the most heavy, intense chants of the night. And this match once that happened, it changed the entire complexity of what you expected from this match. It went from being a hard fought back and forth with big spots and expecting Enzo and Cass to somehow find a way to win the titles, to being able to put in a shorter package, get a couple spots in, make everybody look a little bit good, and then let the Hardys do what the Hardys do, and have Jeff jump off a ladder and swanton on two guys and have the Hardys win the championships. It did not have to be a classical. It did not have to be the greatest ladder match of all time because of how they build it and how they brought them back in.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff could have botched that Swanton bomb, and they still would have gotten a huge pop for the win. Yeah, great feel good moment. Everyone talking about, okay, who are they playing? Are they playing the Hardys, Team Extreme? Or are they playing Broken Hardys? Jeff was straight up in the Hardy Boys gear and look. Matt looks like Broken Hardy. He acted a little bit like it.
Yeah.
But a little more toned down. And we'll see more through the coming weeks what exact characters they're going to be playing.
Yeah, this was just fun. This was a great moment, and it took a match that they had to put a ladder match stipulation, it felt, in just to make it something because the bill was so poor, to being one of the coolest moments by throwing in a complete swerve at the end. It's great.
Yeah. The mixed tag team match was next. Miz was eating up the crowd's response to him, and they were very much behind him, and he dominated the match.
Yeah, he did.
he took it to Cena all throughout the match until eventually a hot tag to Nikki. I don't know if you can it's so weird to call that a hot tag when then the opponent has to change too.
Sure.
And that's when everything went downhill for the It couple, and they lost.
It was short order. The finish came almost immediately afterwards. This was something we knew from the moment that these two couples started crossing paths, that this was what would happen at WrestleMania. There was no way Miz and Maurice were going to win this match. Kudos to them. I've used the word kudos a lot this episode for letting Miz have some dominance there, and for putting him in a position where he could eat up some applause and see that the WWE universe really appreciates the work he's done. This is another situation where he's a heel. He really should be getting booed. I can understand the crowd getting behind him with the fact that half the crowd boos John Cena. After the match, when we get the proposal that we all knew was coming, maybe not knew, but all highly suspected was coming, we had a woman sitting next to us in the crowd that began crying and basically lost her mind. I am really happy for that person, that they can be so emotionally invested in characters on TV, and the joy that person felt was real. I couldn't help but roll my eyes, because taking something like a real life relationship and putting your quote unquote proposal on television in front of millions of people just seems cheap and stupid and cringeworthy. Mm-hmm. I guess in the age of reality TV, maybe this is just the norm, but anyone who doesn't realize that this was all planned, is just, I know we're watching a wrestling show, but I'm sorry, wedding proposals are not usually part of my wrestling show. So this was not for me. Everybody that enjoyed it, good for you. It was just, I am so happy that they did not show up on SmackDown the next night. And I'm glad they're going to be gone for a while, because this is just not what I care to watch.
Wrestling proposals do show up on wrestling sometimes, but they're usually completely storyline driven and end up turning to shit at some point. Seth and Triple H had their non-sanctioned match up next. Pretty low-key Triple H entrance compared to previous ones that he's had. Seth lit the stage on fire, and they had a good match. They had a really fun match. The end sequence, there was one sequence in there where they traded off attempts at the pedigree that was really nice. And then I really enjoyed the finish, because Steph got her comeuppance, and we never really thought that we would see her physically get that.
She took a spear last year from Roman.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
She did. So this is not unheard of, but Roman is booed by everybody. So it didn't feel as good as it being Seth, even though he's not as over as he could or maybe should be. A lot of people said this match was way too long. I really thought they pulled me in. I think that this is another match where I was hoping that Seth would be a little more over. He would be cheered a little bit more. The crowd was definitely behind him. They were much more behind him by the end of the match. That's always a good sign. And I thought that just the idea of having Seth, his knee being worked on the whole time, and really playing that angle up as they've been doing for the past several weeks, they really told a good story in there. And the idea that, you know, Triple H always works his matches way too long because he's trying to get himself over, and he just cares about himself. I thought it warranted it. The only thing that maybe could have been a little bit better would have been a little bit more violent quickly, because this is a unsanctioned fight against people who have a blood hatred for each other, and starting out a little more of a wrestling match seemed, even though they spilled to the outside quickly, it still seemed like a wrestling match in the beginning. That would be my only gripe with it, but everything else, pitch perfect. Stephanie taking the table was great. It went right into the ending, and Seth goes over like he should have, and we were a little worried it might not, but it worked. You know,
about the length, I was fine with the length, because this is really, to me, the only feud in the WrestleMania card that I think went a good while being built up, with some breaks in between it. So because it was the blood feud, as you said, minus actual blood, I think a match like that deserves to go on longer.
Yeah.
This was, I would say, probably my favorite match of the night, just personally. Moving on to the world title match, Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt in the feud that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Bray loses to Randy after trying to freak him out with a bunch of video projections on the mat, and he eats one RKO and loses.
I would like to hear from the people listening to this podcast. Who is this working for? Who do magical projections that are obviously done from the truck? That's obviously a video package. Who does that work for? Who does burning a corpse work for? Who does magical daggers being stabbed into burnt corpses work for?
Like, this isn't, I know that we talk about the similarities between WWE and television all the time. But this isn't like Happily Ever After. This isn't Lost. Like, this is supposed to be rooted in reality. Like, really, who believes some of this supernatural shit anymore? And
the Undertaker stuff is a holdover from years ago when that character debuted and had these magical powers. I just can't stand it. I hated the build to this. I hated everything about it. I thought the match was another thing that the projections, the first time they happened, it was just confusing. And then it happened twice more. And the third time led almost directly into Bray being pinned with an RKO. This was not a particularly exciting match. It was not a particularly well-paced match. The bad guy who burned the corpse of who comes off as a good guy in Bray Wyatt wins the title, and it's supposed to be the hero in the whole situation. We have magical projections, and I am just left with my mouth wide open, wondering why this is even being shown.
Maybe just like how Triple H was talking about how, Roman is a heel, we're just booking him in a different way. That Bray is a face, we're just booking him in a different way.
Yeah.
Who knows?
This is one of the low points of the evening. I think I picked Randy to win this match.
I think I held out hope on Bray.
Yeah, and I expected it the whole way, but it somehow, even though I expected to be disappointed, managed to be worse than I thought it would be.
The opposite of that was Brock and Goldberg. I was not really expecting a whole lot out of this match, and was happy, was pleased. Like, I thought that this 5-minute match was exciting and fun. There was a moment where I thought, holy crap, Goldberg might actually beat him again. And then you saw Brock leapfrog a spear and go on a rampage of German suplexes into an F5. There was 4 moves used in 4 holds used in this match, 2 from each guy, and I really enjoyed it.
Not every match needs to be a 5-star instant classic. Not every match needs a rear chin lock and a front face lock. Not every match needs to be Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero, right?
No.
This was perfect for what it was. They found a way to use guys' 4 moves and tell a compelling story. You can't do this all the time. It's a special occasion when you use something like this, but good for everybody that put this thing together. And they delivered a satisfying outcome and an exciting match with very, very little real substance behind it. Mm-hmm. It looked like a heavyweight bout, guys coming out throwing haymakers. And it worked, and it was fun, and it was perfect. And
then we thought maybe for a little bit that this match would end up getting scrapped, but they fit in the Women's SmackDown 6-pack challenge where Naomi overcomes the odds, comes back from an injury, and regains the championship, making Alexa Bliss tap in her hometown.
Second women's match, there were 6 participants, and the match was under 6 minutes long. less than a minute per participant. The introductions went about as long as the match itself. They should have kept this in the pre-show and given them more time. It would have been the right decision to make. There was plenty of time to do another match on the pre-show. Obviously, they have video package and stuff they want to get done. We were just sitting there watching nothing, so it felt like there was a lot of extra time. Maybe there wasn't. Good for Naomi, but the win would have felt more important if it would have gone out a little longer. We would have seen anything really in the way of substance in this match.
Yeah. Happy that they were able to fit it in.
Absolutely, yes.
And Naomi gets to have a moment in her hometown. But just, even though 5 minutes, it still kind of made the night a little extra long. And then the main event, Roman versus Undertaker. It was announced during the introductions that it was a no-holds-barred match, so no countouts, no disqualifications, and good old JR, Jim Ross, was on commentary along with Michael Cole and JBL. We didn't get to hear it since we were there live and haven't gone back to watch it just yet. But it's pretty awesome that they were able to bring him in for that, and apparently for future stuff as well, because he signed a 2-year contract. But the match itself, you could tell that there was a 50-year-old man in this match.
Sure.
And it looked every bit like that. And this match went over 20 minutes. Probably a good bit longer than it should have.
How did you really feel about this match? Was this a bad match to you?
Yeah.
I'm going to go in a different direction with this, and this is probably just because I was there. I might have a completely different feeling about this if I was watching it on the network at home. There was a lot of people who said the crowd was burnt out by now, and they weren't really booing Roman. Maybe they were tampering with the house mics. Who knows? I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. Everyone always wants to go with tampering with the house mics when they don't hear their boos on TV. But because the crowd was so much behind The Undertaker and so much against Roman Reigns and booed everything he did and cheered pretty much everything Taker did, with the exception of a few kind of calm areas in the middle of the match, the vibe of everybody pulling for Taker was enough to keep me engaged. And while there was a couple messed up spots and Undertaker obviously can't go, it felt okay. I forgive those spots because I enjoyed the ride that they were taking us on. And the fact that I resent them trying to make Roman Reigns, HBK, the valiant guy putting down the legend like he did Ric Flair, because Roman Reigns isn't that guy in the eyes of the fans. But I thought in general, it was a pretty enjoyable match to me. A outcome we knew, everyone knew was coming. And just Undertaker, that one moment where he goes to sit up and falls back down, kind of perfectly encapsulated the entire match. He was worn out, beat down, and he gave it his best shot and then rides off into the sunset afterwards. I thought that was a good story.
Yeah, I did like that part of it. And
make no mistake, that crowd detested Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Whether it came across on TV, it was evident every time he was on the screen that if there were 75,000, there wasn't, but if there was 75,000 people there, 55,000 were booing Roman Reigns.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair assumption. And we were sitting in the thick of it when this was going on. There was certainly boos, and it was hard to not hear them.
Yeah.
Nice segment at the end there. Obviously a symbolism of him hanging up the tights by putting the gloves down, the jacket down, the hat down, embracing his wife, which has rarely, probably if ever, been mentioned on WWE TV, his relationship with Michelle McCool. And their daughter was there. And this was absolutely the last ride, the last showing for him, that hit the heartstrings. That whole segment did.
The moment he took off that jacket and hat and the gloves, it looked like he changed into a different person. Mm-hmm. And I thought whether that's because
he became Mark Calloway
again.
And
whether that's because he consciously did that or it was just an emotional thing. If he did that as like an acting man, he's an incredible actor. This was all pitch perfect in him retreating up the ramp and then going, having the lift take him down. The crowd ate it up. It was great. We'll always be thrilled that we were there for Undertaker's retirement match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's pretty crazy that we'll get to say that and maybe explain to a future child in our lives. So.
And let's just say, as much as we booed Roman Reigns, we were part of that crowd doing that. This was the right move. Whether you agree with Roman Reigns or not being the right person to do it, this was the right time. It either was the right time last year or the year before. But Undertaker, there was nothing wrong with doing this and the way they did it. It was pure class all the way from that point, that vantage point.
Yeah. But overall, I thought this was besides being ridiculously long, this was a fun, enjoyable show. I don't think at any point I was like, just completely like, oh, why am I here? The stage was gorgeous. The firework displays that came with certain people were great. It was the show of shows, in my opinion, and I was highly impressed by that and happy to be there at my second Mania. I thought that it was far better than the first one that I saw.
I thought this was a good show. We didn't really do grades or anything for NXT, which I thought was a solid show. I say this WrestleMania was a B to me. I think it was a fine show. I think that pacing problems and the matches they chose to go with all really hurt it. But as you said, and this might honestly just be because we were there and we got to be encompassed by the fireworks. They're not as impressive on TV. Mm-hmm. Be that in middle of it, it changes the perspective. They did a lot with what I thought was poor build-ups and matches that were on paper did not excite me. And they did a good job with most of them. And then it made for an enjoyable card. And when you've got that many matches, even a stinker like Bray and Randy and short matches for the women, they still work because there's enough matches that you forget about the bad stuff and remember the good.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So then we had a long bus ride home and we slept in late and we went to Monday Night Raw. And
Monday Night Raw, it just was probably the best show Monday Night Raw has put on in a long time. This was a night that there wasn't a lot of filler. This really was from, and it was part of it is it's a hot crowd, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Roman Reigns coming out to start the show was like the worst thing to do, we thought, because this guy gets booed, and if the crowd noise was deafening at the open air stadium in the Amway Center, it was amazing. He was booed for like 10 continuous minutes with multiple chants, and Roman just waiting patiently, smarmy, cockily, if that's a word, and just grabbing the microphone and saying, "This is my yard now," dropping the mic and walking out. If he's gonna ever turn heel, we know it's the time to do it. That's the perfect way to do something like that. It won't happen. They use this in that way to troll the fans a bit, I believe, and also because they knew he couldn't do anything else. He couldn't wrestle. He couldn't talk much. They wouldn't let him. So the WWE handled that perfectly. I hope it leads to something better down the road. It probably won't, but they still handled it perfectly.
That was his best promo he's ever done. Because he took in the moment and he had them eating out of his hand, and then he continued, like, after that, he got the reaction that he hopefully was looking for out of it, and I thought that it was fantastic. It was surreal being there. There was like a nearly 5-minute Undertaker chant. Right. That just kept going and going, and then it almost flawlessly went into the Roman sucks.
Yeah.
And then Roman came out, and then I've never heard boos so loud, and I've been to a lot of Phillies and Eagles games.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive, and I thought very, very well done. A rematch, as they call it, even though it's not really a rematch, with the Hardys going against Anderson and Gallows for the Raw Tag Team Championships. This did not have to be a spectacular showcase. This was another, hey, the Hardys are back. Let's watch them. It was a fine match. I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of the Hardys recently, so I don't know what they can really still do in the ring. Matt doesn't seem like he moves around obviously not as good as he did when he was 20 years old, but they don't have to be the best wrestlers on the planet right now. They're over. The crowd loves them, and getting Anderson and Gallows out of the way, it was probably the right move, so they can move on to something different.
Yeah, it was. And it was just a showcase of what the Hardys are known for. You got a side effect, you got a twist of fate into a swanton bomb, and everyone's happy.
The cruiserweight match with Neville and Mustafa Ali was incredible.
Yeah.
The match in the ring was reminiscent of WCW high-flying cruiserweights. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
They gave it their all. The Raw gave them time. This is what we've all been asking for. We've got an over heel. We've got a baby face with a great move set, and they're throwing beach balls around. And they're chanting Beach Ball Mania. And we're not talking about half the crowd. We're talking about 80% of the crowd. Maybe some of our fans want to knock a beach ball around at a Monday Night Raw. My instincts are to tell you, you're fucking idiots. Respect the guys in the ring. What I really should be saying is, I really hope that you grow up. If you're there to watch those guys, if you want Neville to be more important to Raw and to the company, stop acting like he doesn't matter. If you want any of these guys to be respected more by the people in the back, stop being distracted like children on one of the biggest shows of the year. That's embarrassing to you. It's a detriment to the in-ring performers, and it's fucked up.
Getting some of these chants going that are interesting, to say the least, directed at the wrestlers, that's one thing, because that's part of the show. You're watching the show, you're watching the wrestlers, and these are the people who are competing. That's one thing. But when you completely lose focus of the reason you bought tickets to watch wrestling, and you are playing with a toy that is designated for beach play, this isn't Bash at the Beach or anything like that. You're being a child. You're being a child with a toy, and then when the security takes it away, you're upset and you're calling him an asshole. No, you're not supposed to be throwing shit around. You're supposed to be paying attention to the show that you wanted to see. And Mustafa Ali put on probably the best match of his life. He pulled out a sick springboard Spanish fly off the top rope to Neville that I can't remember the last time I've seen something like that, if I have seen something like that. And they had a great match that should have tore the house down, but instead a beach ball tore the house down.
If you've ever cheered a beach ball at a wrestling show and you get pissed off because they call them sports entertainers and not wrestlers, you're the problem.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle is announced as the new Raw GM. This was a move that a lot of us had suspected, with Mick Foley being ousted in the storyline. Stephanie is injured and can't come back for the time being. So Vince was the one that announced it. Big pop for Vince. He's kind of shows up once a year or so. And announcing Kurt Angle as the Raw general manager should lead to some really interesting stuff. Kurt has great comic timing. He will be a babyface authority figure. I'm tired of heels, so this works for me.
Yeah, and we already got, during the evening, a sense of what he's going to bring, his interactions with Enzo and Cass, his interactions with Sammy and Jinder. Like, he had great comedy with one, he had good, straightforward authority figure work with the others. I'm looking forward to this. I mean, he always was good in these backstage segments, and we get to see him have more fun with that.
Yeah, I think it all worked. With the New Day putting out a open challenge because now WrestleMania is in the books and they've got to get back to wrestling. Say yeah! The Revival comes out. We were hoping they would get a call up. We were thinking more SmackDown, maybe to go against Jordan and Gable. They need help over there. This is a situation where the Revival, a heel tag team, got a huge pop. This was a smart move. You debut them in front of a crowd that knows them well. It will hopefully translate in them getting over down the road. They put on a good match. They looked great. They go over and they injure Kofi afterwards, looking like some badasses. And by the end, even though they were being cheered, because they injured Kofi, they got some boos. So they got that good pop. We know who you are. We respect you. By the end, they're looking like heels, which where they should be presented as. This all worked really well, and I'm happy to have them up.
Yeah, this was done excellently. You let them have some fun in front of the crowd, but then you actually did something that gave them a reason to boo. So, bravo.
The women's tag match really had nothing all that interesting about it other than Emma is back on the main roster actually wrestling, and that was good to see. Maybe we were setting up a Charlotte versus Nia at the end when the heels lost. It was once again Charlotte taking the loss with tapping out to the bank statement, but she kind of pushed Nia a little too far and got beaten up for it. Are we seeing Charlotte going babyface here? Are we seeing maybe her moving to SmackDown? It doesn't seem like they really did anything in this match to tell us where this division's going next.
No, they left it pretty open. There's rumors of her swapping places with Becky. There's been talk of maybe making her a babyface, especially with the character that she's been doing recently. I think can work in a babyface role too. She doesn't need to be that golly gee bubble gum babyface that she was before. That just didn't work for her. Like we were talking in the car on our drive home today. I said that, Ric Flair was able to be Ric Flair and work as a babyface. He was better as a heel, but he could still be himself, his kind of cocky, arrogant, I'm the best in the world, and still be a babyface. And I think that Charlotte can probably do that as well. And modeling someone after Ric Flair and someone who knows his mannerisms and his career as well as Charlotte does isn't a bad thing necessarily.
Not at all. The Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman segment, crowd, obviously a big time over. This is all trying to set the table for what's going to happen. And it became very apparent that it's going to be Roman and it's going to be Brock. We just don't know when. Paul calls him out by name. Braun Strowman ends up being out there and they have a stare down that ends with nothing. Braun ends up retreating. This is another segment which is setting the table for something in the future, but we have no idea what it's going to be. Hopefully, Brock's going to be around. There's rumors that he's going to actually work Payback, which would be a good thing for a guy who just won that title.
Yeah, the seeds were planted there for Roman. We've heard about this for a few weeks now that next year's Mania, they want it to be Roman beating Brock for the Universal title and be his coronation as the next John Cena. So that's there, but we got Braun, but Braun brings up Roman as well, saying that he's not done with him. So
triple threat?
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that'll become clear because Payback's right around the corner. It's not, it's this month. So,
yeah.
They're going to have to put something together. We were supposed to get a tag match with Chris Jericho, and Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. We didn't get that because KO jumped Chris Jericho and basically knocked him out, put him through a table, him and Samoa Joe. So that was a backstage segment. The reason why I mentioned this specifically is because Chris Jericho mentioned Beach Ball Mania, which was a stupid thing to do. It just antagonized the crowd to do it more, and they did later on in the main event, chanting Beach Ball Mania again. Chris, we love you. Can't do that. You can't egg these people on. That's just, I was very disappointed in that.
It really makes me interested to know, what wrestlers' perceptions to this was. I read to you a tweet that Jack Gallagher made earlier in that day of asking the fans to sing Purple Ropes into the tune of Purple Rain during cruiserweight matches. And that's playing to not the wrestlers. So I'd be really interested to hear what wrestlers think of these types of distractions from the action in the ring. If there's any wrestlers that are listening out there, contact us.
Yeah. Drop us a line.
And we'll make you anonymous if you so wish. But yeah, I this stuff boggles my mind sometimes.
Absolutely. We get a number one contenders match, Enzo Amore and Big Cass versus Sheamus and Cesaro. I was absolutely expecting this to be Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy. We did not get that. Sheamus and Cesaro go over. The crowd sang Sheamus and Cesaro. Da, da, da. Almost the entire match.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was great to see Sheamus and Cesaro getting positive reactions. By the end of it, it was just they liked singing. And they were getting themselves over, and they were proud of themselves. That's what this entire thing was about. The end result was good for Sheamus and Cesaro. They were booing Enzo and Cass by the end, which was very shocking. Mm-hmm. And yes, are they going to go beat the Hardys? Absolutely not. But it keeps them together as a tag team a little longer, and these guys are doing great work as a tag team, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and really good finish to the match. Throwing Enzo off the top rope into I don't know what they call it, but on the indies he called it the Swiss Death.
Yeah, it was a fun match, and I'm really, really happy for all the guys involved there. Sammy and Jinder Mahal was just a match to have a match, essentially. Yeah. This was one of the throwaway matches. I think Sammy's going to SmackDown.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it seems like. What's the purpose of that other than be like, oh, remember that guy last week? He kicked Jinder in the face. Now he's going to the other place.
I mean, if we run this whole thing down, they're really only pointless segments. The women's tag team match didn't do much, and the Sammy and Jinder match didn't do much. Everything else had a purpose. Everything else had a place. Everything else advanced the storyline. Everything else set the table. This was a really well-booked show leading into the main event where Finn Balor is the one that replaces Chris Jericho, and the crowd goes crazy. This is a beloved figure, especially with this kind of smart crowd. And yes, is he going up with Seth Rollins? And didn't Seth Rollins be the one that put him out? Sure, but Seth's a babyface in the house, so everything's, I guess, mended up with those guys. But you got 4 guys in the ring. Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Seth Rollins. Darlings, the exact guys.
This is an indie darling stream
that this crowd has been begging to put on the main event of the Raw after WrestleMania, and they start chanting Beach Ball Mania again. Mm-hmm. And they start doing the wave.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. I forgot about that. I will give some people, there were a lot of people that didn't want the wave to happen.
Yeah.
You could look around the stadium and see big swatches of people sitting down.
Yeah.
And hearing, chants about that. But yeah, these are the people who you've been talking about wanting in the main event picture of WWE for years. Here you go. And you're gonna ignore them.
They gave a great pop to Finn, obviously. Yes. They gave pops to Seth. They got into the match when it needed to be. We have to be honest with that. And Finn going over, pinning KO. That's fine. Finn needed to get that, even though KO just won a championship. We're thinking we're going to see these guys pair off in some way.
Yeah.
Going forward to
I
Payback.
think each one, KO and Finn, Seth needs to get his revenge on Joe. He beat Triple H, but he still has unfinished business with Joe.
Right. So this could be really interesting. We've seen great stuff with Finn and Kevin Owens in the past, so we know this could be fun stuff. Before we get off this, as much as we admonish this crowd for the things that they did that we didn't approve of, no CM Punk chants.
Yeah.
Not a one. No Macho Man Randy Savage. No JBL. Right.
Yeah.
So a couple things they did. They didn't do some of the things that we also, kind of are embarrassed by. So that's worth saying.
Yeah. We came home, after, Raw the following day, and we watch SmackDown from the comfort of my home. And Randy Orton starts things off, but Bray comes on. They pretty much agree to having a match at an undetermined time that will be a House of Horrors match. Bray introduces it. Randy says, I don't know what it is, but accepts anyway. Eric Rowan beats up Randy. Luke Harper out for the save. Teddy Long special for the main event of the evening.
The running theme of this evening, and probably for the last 2 weeks, is that no one on SmackDown knows what anything else on SmackDown is.
Yes.
No one knows how many women are in the match in WrestleMania. No one knows what the
Match even is.
Yeah, what the shake-up's going to be. No one knows what the House of Horrors match is. No one knows stuff. It's an interesting gimmick for SmackDown. Rowan's back. That would be more interesting if Rowan was anything but the jobber for the Wyatt family since its inception. But it is nice that he's back and he gives Bray, an extra, pawn to work with. I just have a hard time getting behind any of this because I can't stand this feud and it's not made for me. Mm-hmm. I have to admit that. None of this is made for my enjoyment. It's made for me to be embarrassed by.
You've put out the question. Someone tell me who it's made for.
Yeah, I just like to know.
And explain it.
Yeah.
Naomi is defending her newly won title against Alexa Bliss, so her rematch clause. Naomi wins after a little bit of an extended match using the submission that they don't know the name of. Once again, commentators at SmackDown just left in the dark all the time. Maybe Morrow's the one who knows all the answers, and since he's not there, they just don't know what to do. This was just to reestablish Naomi as being a part of the probably their top of their division right now, and her getting another win in her hometown.
This is just like the Hardys on Raw. This is getting a rematch out of the way so the shake-up, whatever that is, can happen, reshuffle the deck, and find out who's going to go after that title next.
Wow, they're tying up loose ends, which they typically leave just
hanging out there.
Yeah. Kurt Hawkins is talking about Kurt Hawkins, and he offers up an open challenge, and Ty Dillinger is out. Everyone pleased to see that, and Ty wins pretty easily, and the crowd goes crazy with their 10 chants all throughout this.
I'm only a little worried about Ty because this character got over as a heel. Mm-hmm. He's not going to get that whole transformation on the main roster. He's starting as a baby face who tells everybody how great he is. It can work. I hope it works. We love Ty. He's an underrated in-ring worker. He's got good mic skills. He's got a great gimmick. He's got the whole package, great look. Everything's going for him. At some point, they got to put him on a microphone, and that tells who he is. They didn't do it for Apollo Crews. They didn't do it for Sami Zayn until months after he had come up. They've dropped the ball with all these guys to a certain degree. And if they do it with Ty, he will be jobbing out to Baron Corbin in 2 months. If they don't give him a character and let him develop a character and let the actual new crowd that he's in front of, not the crowd tonight or on Tuesday night,
Tulsa, Oklahoma, someday.
He's going to need to get over with those guys. And the only way you do it is with a little bit of mic work, a little bit of storyline, a little bit of character development. Mm-hmm. They got to do all that.
Normally we don't like to mention just backstage segments that mean nothing, but Mojo's interview in the back was just all over the place, and then at the end he cut a quasi serious promo and then got back into his whole I'm hype type of thing, and he goes, "Can you feel it, Dasha?" And her response was so great with, "Not really."
Yeah, that was classic. If that wasn't scripted, it was a genius ad lib because it just makes Mojo as a babyface has to be a delusional, crazy babyface, and that's at least the way he's been played before. I hope they find a niche for him. I hope they find something for him to do. I don't hate Mojo Rawley. I just don't like the way that he's not really done anything and his character's one-dimensional, and he doesn't have a very good in-ring work rate, and it doesn't mean he can't be good.
And he's kind of like bro-y otherwise, and that just doesn't fit with this type of crowd.
Maybe they've got something and maybe they can make it work. I hope for his sake and for our sake it is, because if he's going to be a bigger part of the show, we hope he's entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to Miz and Maurice out in their Cena and Nikki gear, which both you and I said to each other, we just thought that was Cena and Nikki at first. It took a few seconds to realize that it was Miz and Maurice, and they they cut down Cena and Nikki in their little playful manner that they were with that total Bella's bullshit from a week or two ago. And when you would think this would be the part where John Cena and Nikki come out, but there's a guy with a violin, and I immediately like, Nakamura! And this is so close to an idea that you had for the debut of Nakamura, because this was the first feud that you put him in, but you had the Intercontinental title involved in that.
If Miz still had that title, him coming up before WrestleMania and wrestling his first match at WrestleMania for the IC belt against Miz would have put that belt back on the map and made it special, continued to make it special because Miz would have still had it. We didn't get that, but this is perplexing. So I guess Cena and Nikki are gone now, and they will be gone for a while.
Yeah.
That's actually a good thing. It opens up a spot on SmackDown. That's wonderful. But Nakamura gets his full-on spectacular entrance with the crowd eating out of the palm of his hands, and we're like, he's just gonna deliver a Kinshasa to Miz and walk out. It'll be perfect. No, Miz and Maurice got the hell out of there. And he just did his entrance, stood in the ring, and then his music started again, and then they cut the segment.
Yeah.
To have him not come out and at least do something, or just to say a word or two in the microphone, or kick someone, or knee someone, or at least face off with Miz and have Miz run away, I just don't understand. Like, it just seemed bizarre to me.
Yeah, it really was.
To have him come out for absolutely no reason seems strange.
It's one of the most anticlimactic things that we've seen in wrestling, and we've seen a lot of anticlimactic things.
And we are happy to have him on SmackDown.
Oh, yeah.
We are happy that he was able to debut in front of that crowd and soak in that adulation.
Tickled.
But he should have had him do something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Baron and Dean had their street fight, and this was a fun match. There was a good bit of weapon usage. This was what I hoped their match at Mania would have been if they were given some sort of street fight stipulation, like everything that the Brock match never was. And Baron wins. He threw a chair at Dean when he was climbing to the top rope, and then hit him with the end of days. I thought it was a little out of nowhere, especially because he just got put through a table.
Right.
But fun match, and this obviously is going to continue going on.
Heads and tails better than their Mania match, and Corbin going over is the right move. We're probably going to see them at the next pay-per-view for them, and I hope Baron gets that title. I think it's the right move. I think it's the right thing for them to do.
Yeah. Shane is supposed to tell us what the whole superstar shakeup is, and pretty much says, it's going to create opportunities, and anyone should be praying to be on SmackDown. Doesn't really tell us what it is. And AJ comes out, and he says he doesn't want to go anywhere. This is the house that AJ Styles built, and shakes Shane's hand. Feigns a punch, but it's kind of one of those gotcha there things. Is this an AJ babyface turn, or the at least start of an AJ babyface turn?
It would be uncharacteristic and strange if it wasn't. How do you go back to being kind of a dick when you've just shown respect to somebody? Mm-hmm. I'm sure they can do it, and they've done more confusing things before. We know that. Is AJ even going to stay on SmackDown? It seems like for him to say, yeah, I still want to be here, and for Shane to kind of go, all right, you showed me respect. We're on an equal level now. A little less excited about guys trying to tear each other apart 2 nights beforehand, and all of a sudden everything's okay between them. I mean, AJ did put his head through a glass window. Okay. I still want to know what the shakeup's going to be. This was okay, though. I'm glad that AJ was at least on the show. And if AJ is going to turn babyface and be one of the face of SmackDown, I'm super cool with that as well.
Yeah. And then the main event, the Wyatts taking on Luke Harper and Randy Orton. It was what it was, and I wrote here because you said Bray uses magic to leave the ring and lose a match, because then Rowan eats an RKO for the pin.
And he just sits there and smiles and claps, and this isn't for me. I'm so tired of the lights going out. It's so cheap, and they've done this If they did it every now and then, it would be one thing. But in every single Bray Wyatt appearance, the lights go out and he appears somewhere. Or Luke appears. Or Rowan appears. It's just getting tiresome. It's the same thing over and over again. It's like Bray's promos for the longest time with this ungodly rambling forever. They've stopped that to a certain degree, which has been refreshing. I don't want to see this feud continue. I don't want to see these guys anywhere near each other anymore. They're boring together, and the storyline is garbage. And it has been from almost the beginning. So whether or not they continue and Bray gets his rematch and they have this House of Horrors match, whether or not Bray gets this title or not, I want it to be done. Hopefully Bray will have this title at the end of it. If not, Randy can move on to whatever other bland feud is going to happen next.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. That pretty much does it for SmackDown. Excuse me. That pretty much does it for the week of wrestling, even though there's still 205 Live after SmackDown. There is still NXT tapings on Sunday at Full Sail. If anyone stayed for like all of that and did like What Culture shows and Progress, and we did Access as well. We only did one session, even though we had tickets for two. Like, props to you for having the time that you can take off.
Endurance.
And
the endurance to take that all on. I'm exhausted. This was last year. We talked about how long the weekend is, but when you're participating in a large chunk of it, it's even more so. I had a lot of fun. I wouldn't take it back. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
It was great participating with the crowds and a lot of the time. We went at a bar drinking and we turned around at one point and realized that Jack Gallagher was drinking behind us and hanging out and talking with some fans. That was kind of a cool moment. Mm-hmm. We saw Virgil trying to hustle people outside of WrestleMania and get them to pay $5 for a picture with him, and then just sticking around those people for another 45 minutes uncomfortably. So we had some cool moments. We had a lot of fun, and I'm then happy to have a few days off.
Yeah, definitely. I took a ton of pictures and some videos. A lot of I was able to get up on our Instagram and our Twitter account at Missspots. But I'm also going to put together some galleries of that, maybe edit some of the pictures a little more because some of them are a little grainy, and upload galleries to our Facebook page. So, go over to our Facebook page and like us there so that you can see, some cool videos and pictures that we took from the whole weekend of festivities, Hall of Fame, NXT, WrestleMania, Raw, all of that. I got all the plugs in for our social media there, without really thinking about it. Be sure you check out our website, misspotspodcast.com, or simply missspots.com. That's where you can listen to this, podcast, but also any of the major streaming services, whether that be iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, Google Play Music, all places where you can get them. I've started to put all of our podcast episodes up on YouTube as well. I know that this isn't a video podcast, but a lot of people like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, and I've just added some just simple visuals with graphics on there. So if you're into that, you can find us on YouTube as well and subscribe there and listen to our podcasts each week. And also, Geek Life Radio every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. We are there as well. For Kevin, my name is Mike. We are tired. We are sick. We are gonna see you guys next week. So good night. Good wrestling.